Welcome to the People's Revolution podcast. This is the space where we share stories from activists around the world. We hope that these stories inspire you to act locally as we share globally. Welcome to the People's Revolution podcast. We're going to start today, as always, with a land acknowledgement. A recognition that we are on stolen land is not enough when the genocide we call history still continues today and is reinforced by the daily lives of those unaware. Residential schools only closed their last doors in 1997, but the mentality of the residential schools lives on. White people, imagine living in a place that not only normalizes genocide but actively covers it up. We don't live here because a peaceful treaty was signed. We live here because white people before us brutally pushed their way in. This includes our current government, RCMP, and church, and we need to acknowledge this and the harmful systems it brought with it before we can even attempt to create reconciliation. It is a privilege to not know that you're living in such a way that makes a genocidal reality seem like regular everyday life. I would still like to recognize that the stolen land I'm speaking from is rightfully the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Nations and forced to be the home of Treaty 7. These nations are Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani. In these spaces, the Siksika people lived and practiced their oral traditions as far back as existence goes. Treaty 7 was signed on September 22, 1877 in a brutally unethical way. This treaty was not upheld. Treaty 7 includes the Tsuut'ina Nation, the Stoney Nakoda Nations, and the Métis Nations of Region 3. So, this space known as Calgary is actually rightfully known as Mohkinstsis. Welcome to the final piece of our four-part series on Alberta. As promised, we are going to start with the first convoy before 2020, just so you can get a really good look at the pretty exact similarities that happened in the one that happened after 2020. And after we do that, we're going to give some background on what led up to that convoy here in Alberta. And then we're going to finish it up by sharing a little bit about what our perspective is on the Alberta mindset, kind of a summary of what happened, and a couple final stories from our panelists. Again, thank you to Tigra-Lee Campbell, Brad Gallamore, and Tiera Williams for being with me throughout this journey. I appreciate it. It's a fucked place to live, and it's a fucked place to talk about, so genuinely appreciate it, and I appreciate you listening and or watching. Thanks. We are finally going to talk about the first convoy, and we're going to give some context to how that started and what laid the groundwork to create a safe space for that to grow into what it did. I want to show you United We Roll, where the fucking yellow vesters went with their shit. What happened to the yellow? The yellow vesters were the first people to do the convoy, and I'm not going to say a lot of names in this, but I'm just going to drop the PK name, because, well, first of all, I'm about to show you a video of him being interviewed, and then I don't even know what to say about this convoy. It was supposed to be all the things that we just talked about that the yellow vesters were saying they stood for. But I'm just gonna let them speak for themselves. To be honest, I'm not even gonna fucking try. So if you wanna We'll show the video here.
Joining me now is Pat King, one of the organizers of the convoy. Pat, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Pat, why are you here today in the nation's capital?
Because as a Canadian citizen, we have not had our voices heard. We have watched these bills come into play without any asking us, the professionals, what's the best way of putting pipeline into the ground. They're trying to handcuff us by using these new bills to try and be able to stop our exploration of the oil and gas industry.
Also, though, as you know, there's also been some concern raised about some of the elements represented by the movement. There's concern about extremist elements. That there's some people who seem to be sympathetic to white nationalism. There's some people who are expressing anti-migrant views as well.
Okay,
people expressing racist views. How do you respond to that? And is that reflective of the movement?
I love this question because this question absolutely is the epitome of this movement. We are not racist. We have every ethnicity in this convoy. We have every ethnicity group with us. We are not a racist movement, by far, none of it. We are peace, love, absolute honorable people. We're just blue-collar people wanting to get to work.
But you can't deny that there are some, and they might be a minority, but there's some people who seem to express some of those views. No, or is that incorrect?
Well, the guys that are doing that, they are their own group, and they want to have that platform and offer that view, and they want to have that opinion.
So you don't endorse them?
No, not.
They don't represent your group?
No. They are a part of it because we asked everybody to come. We don't care. Anybody who wanted to join this movement, to have their voices heard on Parliament, we were willing to get that happening. Their ideologies and their what their beliefs are, they can have that. It's not ours. When it comes to the UN Migration Pact, it's not that we are against immigration. We absolutely love immigration. We are a country that was built on immigration. Now, what we are against is illegal immigration. We do not want people coming into our country unvetted. We want to know that these people are going to come, adopt our cultures, adopt our beliefs, the Canadian beliefs that everybody loves and adores as Canadians.
What does that have to do with pipelines?
That has to do with pipelines. The pipeline is a focus of corruption in the government. People want to hold that bias that we are racist. I'm going to stand here on my one leg, because I have a prosthetic leg, and I'm going to tell you right now, we are not racist.
This is the ground we stand on today. This is the foundation of Canada. And furthermore, Protestantism, 2017 was the 500th year of democracy being birthed in Europe. That is our history.
We're here, end the UN compact. We're being called racist for wanting secure borders. We are not racists. We are not white nationalists. We are working, hard-working Canadians who want secure borders and one immigration queue for all.
What is it about you libertarians that you hate your own race? You hate it. You guys are so nuts. Woo! I have grandchildren and I'm concerned for them. Do you?
Oh, sorry, this honking.
The dog in the yellow vest.
The dog in the yellow vest. Sorry, Tigra. I think you, or Tiera. Sorry, Tigra. I think you said something, but it cut out.
He said, "What's wrong with you L words and your own race?" Like he even thinks that, like you can tell by the default race is white. You know, like what do you mean hate my own race? Because your race is not mine. That's not my race. And yeah. Sorry, I think it's great.
No, it's fine. Like, okay, also the First Lady was kind of hard to understand, but what she was saying was that democracy was founded in Europe, whatever, 600 years ago, and that is the foundation of the country now.
But democracy in Europe existed long before 500 years ago. It wasn't great democracy. It was still rich white people deciding everything. But, like, I got news for you. The Greeks were a lot more than 500 years ago. So that's upsetting for her. Also, okay, 3 minutes of those videos, and I still don't know what the fuck they're protesting.
Well, the question where he's like, well, what does this have to do with the pipeline?
Yeah. That video, I have heard I am not racist so many times, and then followed it up with I don't like I like immigration. I just don't like immigrants. What?
And they have to come here and be Canadian and have our culture, and how dare they come here and be Muslim, and how dare they come here, and it's just like, what? What is Canadian culture? Could you explain that, please?
I would love to know what that
is. And then can we go back to what the fuck does that have to do with pipelines?
Yes, what does that have to do with pipelines?
What are you mad about?
Okay, so I don't even want to give him that much more of a platform, but I don't know if you all have watched any of the the commissions of the Emergencies Act, and they interviewed PK, and he pedaled on so many things. Like, they were like, oh, so like basically asking him if he was, how everything went, and if he, was non-violent and blah, 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 blah. And it was like every single question they asked him, they reverted back to his own live videos where he implicated himself in everything. And it was so funny. It was really funny. And we're like, well, if it was so peaceful and everyone was just together and everything, they're like, what was the need for the intense security that was there? I couldn't even say anything to that, because why would you have sniper rifles on the roofs if it was so, if everyone was just coming together and camaraderie?
Wait, if everyone was just what? Sorry, it kind of fizzled for a second.
Oh, if why was it? What was the need for the sniper rifles if everyone was just getting along and it was so safe there?
Yeah. I would just like to point out before we exit this that I'm going to put up an article from Vice. Pat is a Wexit co-founder. Yeah. Peter Dowling also, and so I'm just going to put up this article. Wexit co-founders are far-right conspiracy theorists. I'm going to link this article below. Please read it. Wexit.com creator Peter Dowling, I didn't know this, is an ex-cop who thinks that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, I'm not even going to repeat it. Please read this article.
Is he the Saskatchewan guy?
He's the federal Wexit guy. He spoke at the torch rally in Edmonton. Both of them think that the migration policy is aimed to depopulate the white Anglo-Saxon race. I'm sure people have seen that video of Pat circulating the internet saying that, but they both think that. And it's weird because, throughout me researching the United We Roll and the Yellow Vesters, they were like, we need to unite Canada, but it's weird because then they're like, Wexit.
Yeah, Wexit. And so the Yellow Vesters, in my opinion, the Yellow Vesters are Wexit are the Yellow Vesters, just with a different name.
Yeah, 100%. The year before, 2018, United We Stand, not United We Roll, United We Stand, was put on by the same church who we talked about above that did that homophobic, transphobic, anti-abortion rally. United We Stand was really hard to pinpoint what they were kind of getting at. It was about censorship and freedom and patriots uniting and lions roaring and getting yeah, they have that in here, and just come stand on guard for Lee. It's time to push so-called political correctness out the door, and they were just really pissed that they couldn't speak on what they wanted to speak on. And if you look at it, they're like, no mainstream media, no Black Lives Matter, no Antifa, no feminists. It's just the same kind of shit. This is also the same church that put on the torch rallies that we discussed in the previous episodes. We should also note that United We Stand as a protest was done by other people in Alberta at the time, with very similar sentiments, especially in regards to the yellow vesters and whatever the hell they wanted. But what we're going to focus on right now for this conversation is the one being put on by the same people that put on the other problematic rallies, as well as the Tiki Torch rallies, but it is all the same sentiment. I would also like to add that even though I had noted it was hard to pinpoint what they were protesting for, it was easier to pinpoint in the other smaller rallies that other people were doing, but for the ones that this church was putting on, it seemed primarily to focus around the bill to protect against Islamophobia, as well as the sentiments of the Yellow Vesters and the church's previous rallies. But if you look at the year, is it the year before that, or is it at the beginning of that year? Yeah, 2018, they did a rally against political correctness, same people, where they're talking about how political correctness is a communist ideology, which I looked into it, and actually communists didn't use that in Russia or in the USSR. I don't necessarily think these things are applicable here. You can make your own choices on that. What I think is important, and I'm not going to play any clips from this rally whatsoever because fuck this rally. But I do want to point out, and I'll put some news clips up here, TTT. But the first speaker or second speaker, I can't remember, of that rally was he was a transit driver in Calgary who was fired because he refused to drive the Pride bus. And so after refusing to drive the Pride bus, this church got in contact with him and was like, you should run for political office. And he was like, yeah, I should. Yeah, I fucking should. And so these are speaking engagements that him and other people like him, there was other like people that were speaking at the first rally that we talked about were also speaking at this rally. Like, it's just like, it's so consistent. That's all I'm gonna say on that. In 2017, these same motherfuckers did In Defense of Christianity. Sorry, I said it that way. And they were, again, being homophobic and anti-abortion. And there was actually a huge fight at that rally. CBC clipped it. I am not going to play that fight because I don't think it's appropriate, personally. It was a fucked up fight. But it was heavily counter-protested and good for each and every person that went there and fucked their day up because fuck that kind of shit. So these are just like examples of what the fuck is happening. And now we're going to continue on with our discussion of what happened during 2020 and beyond. When I say the Alberta mindset, what does that mean to you? I'm going to throw this one to Tiera first, and then Tigra, and then Brad.
Well, I would say the Alberta mindset is a white mindset. There's no room for racialized voices or anything of that sort. It's just what's right for white people. That's the white mindset is just, I don't know, it's like Hicks. Alberta Hicks with their big trucks and their Canadian flags and their don't tread on me type bullshit. And it's just, there's no room for anybody else to suggest something like, hey, maybe we don't talk like this because there's other people this affects. It's only solely on, I would say, even just white males too, because I mean, misogyny and everything. But the Alberta mindset is a scary, scary thing, I'd say. There's a lot of false information that they take and use against racialized voices. I'd say it's violent. It's like a loaded question. There's just so many things when it comes to the white or the Albertan mindset, because if you've watched what's gone on just in the last 3 years, never mind all the years prior to that, it just shows like there's a lot to navigate. And anytime anybody tries to speak out against it, we're unpatriotic and we're not grateful for being Canadian and we're overreacting because that's not true. And they have Black friends, so they can't be racist. And it's just, they don't listen. It's just, all they want is the power and the privilege to do what they do without being called out. And it's always been like that.
Yeah, that's actually a really important point that we're going to get to in a very short bit here. When they get called out, they're like, you're setting me up to this standard of political correctness. And they actually did a rally against political correctness that kind of like snowballed. We'll get there. They just really don't like being called out. That's a super important point. I'm going to throw this to Tigra.
I am just going to piggyback off of what Tiera was saying. The Alberta mindset is just, to me, it's gluttonous. That, like, it's take at any means possible. Whether that's resources, money, dignity, safety, as long as, the people at the top are making their money, everything else doesn't matter. It is dangerous and it is violent, and it's just sorry if you can hear my kids yelling in the background. It's just so similar to like the southern states, like, let's make Alberta great again. And then if you call anything out, you're unpatriotic. You shouldn't be in Canada, even though there's so many people in Alberta that want to separate from Canada. So it's just, and there's no accountability. There's no accountability, like anything that happens from, from the right, I guess, quote unquote, right, it's automatically brought back to Antifa. And I was listening to, I got trapped in this Instagram and like scrolling through Instagram, and it was this page. He goes to Trump rallies. He followed around the Trump rallies, and he was just like asking these questions. And he, on January 6th, he was talking about the failed insurrection, and so many people were like, yeah, Antifa was there, and he was like, well, like, wouldn't they want Joe Biden to get into office? And they all agreed. And he's like, so why would they go and try to stop that? And no one had an answer, and it's the same here. There's no education. There's so much disinformation, and it's so hypocritical. Like, how many times have we been told, oh, you need to think for yourself? If you go and ask somebody what is critical race theory, I can guarantee you they have no idea what they're talking about. So I feel like the Alberta mindset is uneducated. I feel like the Alberta mindset is ignorant.
Yeah. Brad, do you have anything to top this off?
I think it was really funny while Tiera was talking about big trucks and Canadian flags. A big truck with a Canadian flag drove by my house, so that was incredible. Although in Vermillion, like, if you just wait 3 minutes, you'll see one. So it's really not that much of a coincidence. It kind of is, but it really isn't. No, the Alberta mindset is one of, and I like what Tigra said about hypocrisy. And the other part of that is individualism. So it is 100% about me. It's okay. In fact, it's better if I climb over people to get places and then I can look down on them. And that is the individualist mindset in Alberta. And then again, one of hypocrisy. It's like, I'll die for my own, I'll protect my own, but you won't do anything outside, literally a 5-foot radius outside your own home, right? And then like Tigra was saying, all that hypocrisy that when you try to call them out, that you'll literally just get the same rhetoric over and over. And it's like, oh, well, you're obviously Antifa, but what if I'm not? So now I'm not Antifa. What's your response? Oh, well, you're obviously paid by it. And it's right. It's the same thing over and over and over, which, by the way, I better have a lot of back checks coming from George Soros and Antifa. I haven't even been recruited by Antifa yet, and I get called Antifa every day. It's very upsetting. It's like not even a meeting. So yeah, it's very much an individualistic mindset, and that includes, right, oil and gas. It's oil and gas or nothing, right? And it's that individualistic. It has to be oil and gas. Nothing else works. It's all crap. God forbid we gave $4.5 billion to any other energy sector, but we'll do it yearly for the oil and gas company because of that individualistic mindset. Stick to one thing, like it, keep going. Yep. That's why our football teams suck.
Yes. That's why everything here sucks.
Yeah. Literally.
We've talked about this on this podcast before. If you want to hear about this in more detail, check out the podcast specifically with Terry. But Terry was counter-protesting a rally one day and happened to see a person walking away from the Freedom Rally wearing a shirt that says Proud White Christian Man with some kind of fucked up flag. And he was like, hey, that's fucked up. And then the guy was like, let's fight. And Terry was like, go, let's do it. Is that a good summary?
Basically, yeah.
I'll show some news articles here. There was also a live video of it.
Yeah.
I can show it here. Things that we talked about in the other podcast were like the narrative was fucked up. Like a lot of people were like, elderly man punches man in wheelchair. It's like, no, it was a Nazi. Let's just call him.
To me, all of it, any type of media that there was basically to put a little bit of like make people not worry about it so much that it was a Nazi versus an old man. Like it
tried to humanize him.
Yeah, very much so.
And Nazis are not humans. They're that piece of shit on your shoe that you can't get off.
Yeah. And what was, I think, important to revisit, even though we have already talked about it in that podcast, is that it was the same kind of denial narrative. Like there was even a like wanted poster put out by the Freedom Rally. Like, if you know who this guy is, we'll pay you. Or like, we will give you a reward. Like if you can, produce evidence that this guy was not a paid Antifa actor. And then they also said that Terry was a paid Antifa actor from Portland.
Well, at first they said that I was the guy from Portland, because there's a dude in a wheelchair from Portland who tends to make it in a lot of videos for some reason. And first they tried to say that I was that guy. And then they started saying that because of the Edmonton rally that we went to, I was the leader of Edmonton Antifa. And then the Calgary thing happened. And then they went on off all those tangents. Like one group of them was saying that I wasn't actually in a wheelchair and that I was just a paid actor. And like the other group was saying how I was from somewhere else. And yeah, it was ridiculous.
I think my favorite thing is how often the leader of Antifa changes for these groups. I think I had 3 weeks where I was the leader of Antifa. Not to brag, it was like my moment in the sun and I enjoyed it. But then I wasn't the leader of Antifa anymore. And I was like, oh, well, okay, just dethroned that easily. And then Terry was the leader for a little, like, I think Terry had 3 different stints of being the leader of Antifa. And then You know, there's a couple of other like we like to switch it up, and then they get the names wrong. So like, I was the leader of Antifa, but it's because they thought I was Terry.
Terry, but not faking it in a wheelchair.
They're like, this guy's not even in a wheelchair. I was like, I know.
Yeah, it was insane, to be honest. Like, like beyond delusional. Like it was mental.
But thank you for doing that. Like that is like what people should do. Like if you see a blatant Nazi walking down the street, be like, hey, you fucking suck. And then they're gonna get mad and like they obviously might punch you or like project like whatever their flagpole at you. But at the end of the day, like calling out hate is super important, and Carrie's quite good at that. So
and ultimately the only thing that guy deserves is a fucking ditch. So just like every other Nazi.
Yeah.
Seconded.
Yeah. Actually, if you Google that guy's name, he wrote like a Nazi book, which I think is important to note. Like they're like, he's a paid actor, but like if you literally Google his name, you can see like whatever 30 years ago he wrote this super ass racist book. You can buy it on Amazon. Don't buy it.
Yeah, and he owns some like aerospace engineering firm of some sort as well, like where they do something with airplanes as well. Like he's like an active member of Calgary's like business community and stuff like that. Like he's around, he's known, he's not a paid actor in any way. I mean, if he is, good for him, but where do I get my check? Fuck.
Yeah, the amount of times.
Yo, get that guy a fucking Oscar.
Right? I'm waiting on Soros to hurry up and fucking pay me, so.
Okay, well, the one thing I want to bring up about Terry is the amount of times we've seen videos him ripped out of his fucking chair. Like, holy shit. Like, he was just, like, fucking just, oh my God, it was wild to see. It was really wild to see.
Just to kind of lighten the mood for a second, I'm going to put some pictures up on the screen of in June 2021, Alberta decided to protest for their freedom by hosting rodeos. They had 2 rodeos, and I just wanted to add this in because it's funny, and it just really speaks to like the Alberta mindset and the mentality of Alberta. But like Alberta Health Services had to get involved. Even Jason Kenney was like, what the fuck are you doing? COVID numbers were getting worse. Alberta tried to take legal action. They eventually, at the second protest, were granted an injunction. That's just like what we're dealing with here. It's fucking weird.
Rodeos for freedom. Yeehaw.
Rodeos for freedom. I'm gonna give like a small summary of just a couple bullshit things that happened. With this video here.
Torch marches, Nazi salutes, and Confederate flags. For many, these are clear examples of hate and should be charged as hate crimes. But that's not always the case. And there's a high threshold that must be met for police to go down that road.
Another Nazi flag has been spotted flying in Alberta. The Simon Wiesenthal Center says it is on the gatepost of a property in Brazeau County near Breton. On the other gatepost, a Confederate flag. The center says the RCMP has asked the property owner to take them down, but he refused to do so. They want a hate crimes investigation launched. Another Nazi flag seen flying near the community of Boyle triggered a formal complaint to Mounties from the human rights organization.
Now, is that just a camera thing, or was that Nazi flag backwards?
I thought the same thing.
They suck at even being racist.
I'm gonna scroll back in the video and take a look at that again.
The only part that wasn't in the video.
It is rotated the wrong way, though.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, it's not necessarily backwards, but it's not right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a 45-degree rotation of it.
It's weird that I know that or notice that, and I don't know. Maybe that's something I need to fucking look into, but that's fucking hilarious.
The only part that wasn't in that video that I want to add to this section of shit that's disgusting, but we don't really need to talk about it, is the Grimshaw guy. Here's a picture of him. I'll put it up on the screen here. Wearing a KKK hood. I'm claiming it was a mask. Okay? Alberta.
That was a fun time. I got followed after we left Grimshaw and almost ran off the road. So that was great.
Oh, fuck. I forgot that, actually.
Tiera's wearing the right hoodie for it right now, too. You just can't see the snout.
Yes, I was. I'll be on camera in a second.
It was so wild. That whole thing was wild. Like, first of all, I showed up in Grimshaw by myself somehow. I don't know how that happened, but I was like, y'all, I am here. I am by myself. I am scared. And then, and it was like cold as shit that day too. But, there were a few people that did come out to show their support, which was really, really like surprising. And like, there were, even like firsthand accounts of people who were like literally at that time on stress leave due to the racism and discrimination that they were facing at work. So I feel like our presence really did validate a lot of people, and I'm really happy that the group of us got to go. And it was like people will go to no lengths. Like I remember going like and putting up all those posters at the post office, and this person came and started ripping them down, and she's like, they're not in French and English, and was there and was like, what are you talking about? This sign right here is just in English. It's not in French. He's like, if you want me to translate it for you into French, I will. And she couldn't even say anything. Like, she couldn't even say anything to that. And then, like, this was like the vet, or no, the vet or the dentist. I can't remember which one. I think it was the vet. I can't remember. Anyways, so she came up too, and she was like spouting her whatever she had to say, and people were circling, and just like that intimidation tactic too, like was so ever present, like just trying to scare people.
Yep.
And it wasn't like, oh, they followed us till we left Grimshaw. We were followed for hours. He followed us to the gas stations Tigra and I went to, like along the way. He followed us until almost an hour outside of Edmonton, and then he drove in front of me, slammed on his brakes, tried to get us to stop. It was like a snowstorm, so I had to swerve and try not to get in the ditch, and then I took off. Luckily, Tigra just turned off, so he had to pick one of us to follow, and it was me. And yeah, it was crazy.
I didn't even realize this person was following us. Like, and they followed us for a really long time. And I remember, because I had to go through, like, I had to make a left-hand turn off of like that main highway to get back to where I was staying. And I saw what happened to Tiera, but it was like really surreal. And after that happened, I had to go down this like side, like scary ass fucking like side like highway, and I was really scared. Like I called Brad, and it was like really late at this time. I called him, but he didn't answer. I called Brad, and I was like, this just happened. I'm like, there's people behind me. Like, I was like literally fucking scared. And when we called to report it, they they're like trying to ask you all these fucking details. They're like, well, did you recognize them from the gas station? I'm like, there's so many people there. Like, you just like went through this traumatic thing. Like, it was so hard to remember details. And because of that, they basically said that nobody had followed us. But Tiera and I fucking know, like, this person followed us and they tried to run her off the road. Like, it was really weird and it was really scary.
Yeah, he followed us, and we remembered the truck from the time we left Grimshaw. That truck kept circling back to like where we were protesting and followed us for hours. And it was just so random that he came speeding up behind us. It's like he decided this is the moment when nobody else was on the road. It's pitch black. Nobody else was on the road but Tigra and I. And she was getting ready to turn off. We were just saying bye to each other on the phone. And then we ended up calling like, oh my God, did you see this fucking guy? Like, he just tried to run us off the road. And he slammed so hard on his brakes. If I didn't swerve, or if there was another car in the other lane, there would have been an accident for sure, because there was just no way to get around it. And it's winter.
Yo, and it was a crazy snowstorm because I didn't make it because I ended up in
yeah
the pit before.
It was hard to see, like so hard to see driving home. And yeah, so, and he tried to get us to stop. That's the only reason I could think of him slamming on his brakes, because we went to a dead stop in the other lane. And then we sped off because we're like, oh fuck, this guy followed us. He's pissed. And yeah, then he sped up, slammed on his brakes again. And then we started like driving fast. Well, I was driving, so I started taking off. And then he just sped off into the darkness. And I was like, what if he's waiting up ahead on the road somewhere? I'm scared. Because you couldn't see anything. It was pitch black and snowing.
Hopefully
Alberta be crazy.
Hopefully he ended up in a fucking ditch somewhere.
I could only wish. And of course, I go to make a police report, and that was useless. So
they were probably like, that was us. I'm just...
right. Don't come back here.
Our good friend Jim.
That was the Bristol RCMP.
Yeah.
Or Grimshaw, I guess. Yeah, sorry.
Jesus. Like, Alberta never ceases to fucking amaze me.
You have no idea. being back in Ontario, people are so like closeted about their racism, and they'll like keep it hidden. But out in Alberta, it's just like, no, fuck you, we're here and we're fucking proud of it. It's like mind blowing, the difference.
It just doesn't surprise me though, like the threats that came out of Grimshaw, even like in their community pages, and the amount of like of support that this guy that was wearing the clan hood was getting, you know, like it's just like shit like that doesn't surprise me. Plus we're in Peace River region, so that's scary in itself. But they, like, that community came together to support somebody wearing something that reminisced a clan hood. That is what they were supporting. And the going retort was, well, that's what happens when you force people to wear masks. Out of fucking everything. Literally, I seen some guy wear his underwear on his face. Like, I've seen the dumbest shit ever with people trying to make masks. And that's what you come to? Literally? And that's what's being supported? Literally? It like drew, I don't even want to say it drew out the racism, because the racism was always there. It was like always there. But it just, and because we were in the height of the Trump phenomenon, like it just ever emboldened people. And the arguments and the way we spoke to each other online and the way people spoke to each other online just bled into real life. It just bled into 3D. And you know, those are, you know, that's just how people talk to each other now, is like how we do online. And you know, like it just makes me think like a clanhood, a fucking clanhood was defended. And I'm from, like, Lloyd is small, like it's a small little town too, where we have community pages where people do say, you know, I experienced this form of discrimination, or I experienced this form of racism, and people discredit you. They will jump right away to tell you, like, I go there, you know, they're not following you, they're trying to help you. You know, like they like, how do you know? How do you know it was that? You know, like when you come out with anything like that, they will do everything to fucking discredit you. But a guy with a Ku Klux Klan hood on was being defended. Even their fucking mayor defended it. Even their mayor. And I don't even know if he lived. Oh yeah, he did. He did live in Grimshaw, but even their fucking mayor defended it, saying that it was a joke. And that was like white guy in Vermillion that had the N-word on his tree. Remember, he had that sign with the N-word on his tree and the like racial slur for Asians. Remember that? And we went and protested there too.
Oh yeah.
That was what came out of the community, was that he's old, he has mental illness. Why would you do that? You know, and even the people that were supporting LVE said that to me, and I couldn't even do anything but cry. Like I felt so like, how can you ask me to have any sort of compassion for somebody that has that word on their tree? And that was when the mayor of Vermillion at that time called it decorative fucking signage. She called it decorative signage. You know, like people, they will go to any length possible to defend this shit. But when we want to come out and say, yo, I went to this place and, you know, I was not treated properly, I know firsthand what this is about, and then they don't even fucking believe you. Like, this is the systemic racism. Like, this is fucking it. It is in everything, in everywhere, in all ways of fucking thinking, unless you do the work to unlearn it. Like, this is fucking it. It can't get any clearer than this.
Mm-hmm.
Just broke my heart.
This is Alberta. I'm Saskatchewan. I'm looking at you, Saskatchewan.
Oh, fuck yeah. Like today, oh my God, Julia. Like where were we? What was that town called? Can't remember what it was called. We're on our way. Anyways, we had been on the road for 4 hours at this point. We stopped at a co-op. I needed gas. Went in there, and I both went in the bathroom, and we both went in the bathroom. I said, can I go first? Because I'm going to go out and pay for our gas. And I needed another coffee. And so I came out, went to the coffee. He fucking ran. He ran to come and see what I was doing. There was one fucking clerk in there, one teller person. Somehow I turned around, an RCMP was materialized out of nowhere. Like, you can't make this shit up. Like, you cannot make it up. He fucking ran. Like, I don't know, like, if it was me pulling the coffee cup out, plus I was wearing my huggle, and I don't know if it was me trying to pull the coffee cup out or something. Like, he thought I was trying to shove something up my sweater or something. But the way, and then he looked at me, and then I looked at him. So I was like, oh, like, I'm like, I thought he was going to try and do something, but he didn't. He just stood there, looked at me, and then he went back to the till. And then when I went to go and pay for my shit, it was just like the look on his face, like the smug, like, you know, when people are smiling, but it's like a really condescending, like, yeah, like a really fucking condescending smile. Like, that's the way that he was looking at me. I went to go and tap my card and it said transaction not complete for, I don't know, maybe I tapped it too fast or something. And just, it was just the whole interaction from start to finish was so god awfully terrible. I was like, get me the fuck out of here. Like, I was like, oh, can I re-tap it? And just like, I honestly, I wanted to reach across that fucking counter. But he, like, that's the shit. That's the shit that happens, you know? And it's like, now I have to weigh my pros and my cons. There's a cop in here. My daughter is in the bathroom. You know, like, is this worth my effort right now? After a 4-hour fucking drive, I still have to drive another fucking hour. You know, and it's like, I felt so horrible. Like, I'm like, why the fuck is this happening? All I wanted to do was get some gas P and get some fucking coffee. I'm not trying to steal from your fucking co-op. Like, that's the shit. That's the fucking shit. I'm like, have you seen a black person in your whole life? Like, has this happened to you? The way he ran, Julia, like, I wish we could have gotten that fucking recording because it was ridiculous. It was the most ridiculous thing. And he didn't even make it. He didn't even, usually when you get followed in the store, a lot of the time they try and be like fucking sneaky with it. Like, they'll try and pick something else up and pretend to look at something else or like organize some shit. He didn't even try and do that. He was just like blatant looking at me. Are you trying to fucking steal anything? Yeah. And then if that happened in Lloyd, and then I was to go into a community page and be like, this happened, and he'd be like, oh no, he's just trying to help you.
Ugh. I don't know why people put in their 2 cents like that.
I know. I fucking know. And it's like, you know, it's like, you don't think that this person has experienced enough racism, whether it's overt or covert or a microaggression. Like, you don't think that they've experienced that enough times in their life where they're able to fully recognize what's happening? And like, why can't we just take what they're saying for what they're saying? You know, like, it blows my mind because it's like fucking Joe Blow from, you know, I don't know, probably not even from Lloyd. And it's like, why does this make you feel a type of way? Like, it doesn't make sense.
And this concludes our 4-part series on fucking Alberta. If you made it this far and you watched the whole thing, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. It was awful to put together. It was just awful. So, yeah, maybe we will continue on with the Alberta story in the future, or maybe we won't, because again, it was terrible. Thank you so much, and tune in next time for something completely different. Thanks.